On the morning of the 23rd of May 1998, two climbers on the north side of Everest, about 300 meters below the summit, come across something on the snow that they first take for a discarded piece of equipment. It is a woman. She is lying on the route. She is alive. She has been there all night above 8,000 meters, without oxygen, without a tent, without a sleeping bag, in temperatures that freeze exposed skin in minutes. Her name is Francys Arsentiev. 39 hours earlier she made history, and it is the reason she is lying here. Everest has two sides. The Nepal side, the one everybody has seen photographs of, with the icefall and the long white ramp to the South Pole. And the Tibetan side, the north, colder, windier, less crowded, and by reputation less forgiving. That is the side the Arsentievs chose. Francys Di Stefano Arsentiev is American, born in 1958. Her husband, Sergei Arsentiev, is Russian, and very good, one of the most experienced high-altitude climbers of his generation. They climb as a pair, and they have decided to do it without bottled oxygen. That decision is the entire story, so it is worth being precise about what it means. Above 8,000 meters, the death zone, there is roughly a third of the oxygen available at sea level, with a mask and a cylinder. A climber is functionally at a lower altitude and can think, move and warm themselves without one. The body begins to consume itself. Judgment degrades first, then coordination, then the will to move at all. Nobody acclimates to the death zone. You can only spend time there, and the clock only runs one way. In May 1998, they arrive at base camp on the north side. On the 17th, they climb from advanced base camp to the North Col. On the 18th, they go higher, the same day that 21 other climbers summit from the north. On the 19th, they reach Camp 6, and Sergei radios down that they are in good shape and will start for the summit at 1 in the morning. On the 20th, they set out and turn back at the first step when their headlamps fail. In the dark, at that altitude, on that terrain, continuing is not an option. On the 21st, they try again, gain almost nothing, and spend a second night at Camp 6. That is 2 nights already spent in the death zone, before the summit attempt that counts. On the 22nd of May, they set out again. And this time they keep going, without oxygen. They move slowly, much more slowly than a team on gas, and they reach the top of the world dangerously late in the day. Francys Arsentiev becomes the first American woman to stand on the summit of Everest without supplemental oxygen, and then they have to get down, in the dark, on a third night above 8,000 meters. Somewhere in that descent, in the dark, the two of them become separated. Sergei reaches the camp the next morning. His wife is not there. He does not rest, and he does not wait. He takes an oxygen cylinder and medicine, and he climbs back up into the death zone to find her. He is never seen alive again. His body was found on the face the following year. And this is where the second group comes in. That morning, an Uzbek team on its way to the summit finds Francys Arsentiev high on the route. She is semi-conscious. She is hypoxic and severely cold. By the accounts, they do what they can, and they cannot carry her down, and they go on. Later the same day, 2 more climbers reach her, Woodall and Cathy on their own summit attempt. She is still alive. By Woodall's account, they stayed with her for something like an hour. They tried to get her upright. They tried to move her. She could not stand and could not hold herself up, and there was no way for 2 people to carry a third down that ground. By his account, she said the same things over and over, that she was an American and that they should not leave her. They gave up their summit attempt to stay with her. And then, because the light was going and their own oxygen and body heat were running out, they had to leave her or die there with her. She died on the mountain. The date given is the 24th of May, 1998. It is easy, sitting at sea level, to hear that and feel something hard about the people who walked past. So here is the arithmetic once, and then we will leave it alone. Above 8,000 meters, a fit climber, on oxygen, moves at a fraction of normal walking pace and stops every few steps to breathe. An unconscious adult weighs the same as they do at sea level, but there is nothing there to lift with. There are no helicopters at that height. The air is too thin for rotors to bite. A rescue is not a question of courage. It is a question of how many people are on the mountain, how much oxygen they are carrying, how many hours of daylight remain, and whether the terrain will physically permit a body to be moved without killing the people moving it. On that day, on that ground, the answer was no, and then comes the part that most retellings skip. She was not brought down. She stayed exactly where she died, on the north side, in view of the route, close enough to the climbing line that every expedition going for the summit from Tibet walked past her. For 9 years, climbers began to call her the Sleeping Beauty. That name is part of the record now, but it was never hers. It was what strangers called a woman they stepped around on their way to a photograph. Ian Woodall, the man who had stayed with her for that hour, did not let it end there. In 2007, he organized and led an expedition he called the Tao of Everest, with a stated purpose that had nothing to do with the summit: to take Francys Arsentiev, and the climber then known to everyone only as Green Boots, out of view of the route. On the 23rd of May 2007, 9 years and 1 day after he found her alive, Woodall located her body, wrapped it, held a brief ceremony, and lowered her down the face, away from the line where climbers pass. She is still on Everest. She is simply no longer part of the scenery. Her record stands, and it is worth saying plainly what it cost and what it was. Francys Arsentiev was the first American woman to reach the summit of Everest without bottled oxygen. She did not survive the descent. In 2016, Melissa Arnott became the first American woman to do it and come back down alive. 18 years between those two sentences. And the thing that stays, after all the arithmetic about oxygen and daylight, and what was and was not possible, is much smaller than the mountain. For an hour on the 23rd of May, two strangers sat in the death zone with a dying woman who kept telling them she was an American and asking them not to leave. And then they had to leave. 9 years later, one of them came back for her.